I'm going to use a block and 2 bricks today. Can get away with 1, not a problem. And we're going to start in Shavasana. I'm going to use the block for the back of the head trick. So I'm going to start with the legs high, feet wide. We're just going to take a few minutes here to relax down. So let the hands come out to the side of the body, let the knees kind of rock in a little bit. Roll out the shoulders, wriggle the hips even further away. And then come into slow stillness. Relaxing the jaw, settling the breath. Now I'm going to take a deeper breath in, wriggle the feet in a little bit, and slide them out down to the bottom of the mat on the center line. Just going to move the block out the way so the head's flat to the floor, and then extend the arms out behind, overhead. I'm going to take hold of my left wrist and wriggle the shoulders gently over towards the right. So I'm putting a curve down the spine, but keeping the shoulders flat to the floor. And then I'm going to take the legs gently and slowly out to the right side as well. So the whole body is curving over to the right side. Now, it's generally relatively easy to keep the shoulders flat to the floor, but what can happen when you take the legs over is that the pelvis tilts. You want to try and keep both sort of halves of the pelvis touching the ground. So you might need to draw the left hip down towards the ground a little bit. Now we can turn the head the same way as to the bend, the curve that we're moving into. It's called the banana pose because from above, that's kind of what we would look like. If you find this terribly easy to sit within, you can actually cross the left ankle across right. You want to do that slowly because it can pinch the sciatic nerve a little bit if you have area of issues around that place. Just a few more breaths here. And we'll wriggle the shoulders back into the center, change the grip, bring the feet back into the center, take a breath, wriggle the shoulders to the left side this time. And spend a little time letting the shoulders relax down onto the floor. And then we'll take the feet out to the corner edges as well. Again, remembering to keep the pelvis flat to the ground. And we'll bring ourselves back to the center. Wiggle the shoulders back in. Bring the knees back in towards the body. Allow ourselves to take a little hug. So I'm just going to draw the arms around the shins, which might just be hands around the shins. Depends on how sort of flexible you feel first thing in the morning. And then we'll let the feet come back down to the ground, close in towards the bottom. Wiggle the toes and the heels together, and we'll draw the right knee in towards the chest. Just take the hands around the shin, draw the knee gently towards the armpit, and slide the left leg out. I'm going to flex that leg, lay the head down onto the floor if you've been looking. Allow yourself to flex both feet, send the hips away. Feel the spine lengthen, the waist narrows in a little. Now we'll draw the knees back in. Another little hug. So we draw the chin in towards the chest, wrap the arms, maybe a little wriggle from side to side on the spine if that feels good. And then the feet come to the floor again, close into the body. The left knee comes in, a little squeeze to the armpit, right leg lengthens out. So we just want to check, leg goes down the center line, and we flex both feet once we're there. Get that sense of lengthening the body out. And then we'll draw both knees back in again. And yet another little hug. Now I'm going to bring the feet to the floor, roll onto my right side. So I'm going to keep the head at the moment towards the rear end of the mat. And I want the body to be in a nice long line. I'm going to take the bottom hand out towards the end of the mat. So the armpit is facing down towards the floor. It's going to be on the hips. And then bend the elbow, bring the hand around the back of the base of the skull. So it's just supporting rather than pressing into the ear. Now you want to try and keep your face and your eyes looking to the side of the mat rather than looking down, which I know your laptop might be in a different place, but once we get started. And we're going to take one of the legs up into the sky. We're going to take a little breath and start to slide the top foot along the thigh in towards the groin and just taking the hand around the ankle. So we want to point the knee up towards the sky, the bent knee. We want the hips stacked on top of each other rather than rolling back. And we lengthen out through the bottom leg. So I'm pressing the ball of the foot away and spreading the toes out a little bit. I'm going to draw the knee in towards the body. So the hand comes around the outside of the thigh, taking hold of the shin and draw the knee towards the armpit. I'm going to release that hand and bring it back on the inside. Slide my fingers down so that I can put the index finger, middle finger around the big toe, get a nice hook, and then slowly extend the leg up towards the ceiling. So aiming towards a straight leg. Now, if you've got a substantial bend in the knee at this point, that's fine. You just work on trying to let the leg lengthen out. If the leg does lengthen out, then you want to flex the foot so the toes come down towards you. Lift the heel towards the sky and suck the hip bone back into the hip socket. And we'll release gently. Draw both knees in towards the body. Use that top hand to press. Gonna roll gently. So we're going to do the other side, the other end of the mat. So just lengthen the hand out gently. Get a nice line in the body. Top arm giving a little bit of support. Lengthen out through the legs. Bring that bottom hand underneath the back of the skull, just to give it a little support. Strong legs. And then again, we're going to slide that top leg in and take hold of the ankle and just spend a little bit of time trying to get used to the idea of stacking the hips. And then we'll take the hand behind the thigh and draw the knee a little closer in. So generally, we kind of retract the shoulder blades a little bit to help with the arm drawing the leg in. So it's not just all bicep. And then we can release, take the hand back in the front, slide down, find your toes. Try to avoid turning the head down to have a look. And then when you're ready, you extend the leg out and up. And again, just ease it in to the straightest leg you can. Now, if it does open out to a straight leg, again, remember heel high, toes draw down. Try and keep the hips stacked. Breathe in gently. And then we'll release. Bend the knee, drop it down. Bring both knees in towards the body. Use that top hand to lift up. Coming onto the knees for cat-cow, so we're at the front of the mat. Spread the fingers out a little bit and just starting to draw the chest forwards. Tucking the tailbone under and rolling out. Inhaling forwards. Exhaling it out. We'll come back into a nice neutral tabletop. We'll take the hands a little wider than the shoulders, come into melting heart. So we're going to allow the chest to come down towards the ground. Maybe the chin or the forehead touches the floor. Press into the shins a little bit. This is interesting. I've got a pair of leggings underneath my trousers, and they're sliding on top of each other. So I'm actually just sliding around backwards on this one. It's an interesting new dimension to the pose. So this is supposed to be working into the middle upper back area. I'm going to push on the fingers to just move the hips back a little bit. So once you've shifted the weight, you can continue to do that and let yourself come into child's pose. And when the head comes to the ground, take the hands down towards your toes. Relax those shoulders out. Hands forwards again. And we'll lift ourselves up. Just draw the knees and the thighs very much closer together, so we're still sitting on the heels, sitting upright. Now we're going to turn the palms out and the hands out in front, and then slowly draw the hands around behind. Start to bring the palms together and have the fingers point up towards the sky. See if we can get the palms to touch. So there might be a little wriggling around, a bit of negotiating going on. Just drawing those shoulders back gently. Breathing easily into the chest. Release the hands back. Bring them towards the front of the mat. And we'll lift up onto all fours, shoulders over the wrists, tuck the toes underneath, ease ourselves back into that down dog. So your choice to walk the dog out or stay static. I've already done one class this morning, so I don't particularly need to walk my legs out any further. Take a little breath from here, Allow ourselves to walk the feet in towards the middle of the mat. So we're going to come up onto the tippy toes. And then let the heels come down. Walk the fingers in to that forward fold. We'll take the feet out a little wider. So towards the outer hip area. And then soften the knees so I can drop the body sort of in between the gap that I've just made. And rounded spine, and then ragdoll gently back out as I exhale. So setting the foundation up nicely for that. Bringing the hands up towards the sky as you breathe in. Hands in towards the heart. We'll hinge over the hips. And down to the floor. And then soften the knees. Drive out on the exhale. Float up on the inhale. We'll take that into a little bit of a back bend. On the exhale. Bring the hands back in towards the heart of the inhale. Exhale over, down to the floor. And soften the knees. And we'll ragdoll out a final time. We'll take the hands up towards the sky again, above the shoulders, into that little bit of a back bend, and lengthen out as we breathe in. Hands in towards the heart. So we're going to try and take a standing balance. We're going to zigzag the toes back in until they touch. Find a point to focus on. Bring the hands in front of the heart into prayer. We'll shift the weight into the left leg and start to draw the right knee to about the height of the hip. And once you've done that, squeeze the heel in towards your butt. Let the knee come down as you take your right hand down to find your ankle. And then walk your fingers out towards your toes. So you want to try and bring the heel in as close into your buttock as you can. And then we're going to draw the knees down towards the floor. And draw the pubic bone forwards a little bit, so you're sending the tailbone down towards the ground. We'll see if we can take the left hand behind, find the toes as well. Oops. And see if we can not wobble around too much. I just had a mail message land in my ear. Rung out like crazy and threw my balance. Taking one more breath, then let your foot come down slowly. I should have turned the mail off before I started doing the class. Oh, like Big Ben's just gone off on me. Sorry, it's giving me the giggles. So bring your hands facing towards your heart. Serious face, come on. Take a little breath. Shift the weight into the right leg. Left knee lifts. Heel comes into the butt, so there's a little squeeze. So the knee goes down. Take the hand down and find the ankle. Allow ourselves to find the toes. Bring the thighs down towards each other. Pubic bone goes forwards again. That right hand comes back. Find the toes. And then we can release. Shake it out. Oh, glad there's only one email came in. Come back up to the front of the mat, and I'm going to use those 2 bricks that I've got, and they're going to be just in front of my feet. If you only have one, put it into the center. That's not a problem, but they're on the high end. And I'm going to take a little breath, hinge forwards gently with the hands in towards my heart. Keep the spine nice and long, and then place the heel of the hand down onto the blocks. So if you've got 2, it's 1 each. Otherwise, pretty much one hand on top of the other. I'm going to bend the knees just a fraction, keep the spine nice and long. Slide my left foot back, and then ease the heel down into the floor. So I've got some pretty straight legs, but the feet are still the same distance apart as the blocks that are out in front. Now I'm going to try and press both feet down to get very straight legs. Draw the belly in and send the tailbone back. Now this is where being in the studio would be a little bit more convenient. We're trying to keep the hips stabilized and square. So if you notice that your sort of front leg hip is pulling around a little bit and your bottom is moving over to that side, you want to bring the pubic bone back down into the center line of the mat and try to get an imaginary lengthening of the hips equally towards the back of the mat. So another way of thinking this is the distance between the top of the pelvis and the bottom of the ribs on both sides of your body should be equal. And then you know that your pelvis is square. We'll take a little breath and we'll soften the front knee. Bring the left foot in. Just place that parallel back in. And then staying in position with the spine still nice and long. Soften the knees just a fraction. Slide the right foot back. Drop the heel in. And then start to lengthen. And thinking about those little things that we talked about before. Pubic bone on the center line. Both legs pressing down. So we're not pressing into the back of the knee. We're trying to press down the legs into the feet as evenly as we can. Thinking about the distance between the pelvis and the ribs. Which might mean you need to just drop the front hip a little bit more towards the back of the mat. And then we'll soften the front knee, walk ourselves in, soften the knees again, just bring hands onto the hips so we can lift up. Inhale up towards the sky, take a little bit of a back bend again. As we exhale, drawing the belly in, inhale, keep it lifting. And then bring hands in towards the heart. Now this time we're going to take the hands behind. And we're just going to take, you could take the reverse prayer that we did earlier, but I'm going to take my hands around the back and see if I can get my hands to find my elbow joints or my elbows. And then draw the ribs down a little bit because I have to kind of lift the chest up to make some space. So draw the ribs down towards the hips again. Take a little breath. I'm going to soften the knees, slide the left foot back. I've got a visual cue of 2 bricks. So keep the feet the same distance apart. Make sure the hips are squared up for the front of the mat. Allow the legs to stay straight. Slowly extend out. We're just taking that halfway. You need to put quite a little bit of weight into that back leg. I'm thinking about squaring the hips. And then we'll soften the front knee. Let ourselves lift up. Step it forwards. I'm just going to see if I can take hold of the elbows the opposite way around a little bit. So tiny little adjustment. Ribs down. Soften the knees. Shift the weight a little bit. Slide the right foot back. Heel into the ground. Square those hips. Take a little time to feel it, think about it. And then when you're ready, draw the belly in. Hinge over the hips gently. Just that halfway. We're going to come in slowly so that the back of the leg has a time to understand where we're going. Also that we draw the heart down the center line of the mat. It's very easy to start twisting out. Usually because we're rolling into one edge of the foot a little bit, either on the front or even the back foot. And then we soften the front knee and lift. I find it much harder on one side than the other physically. Still requires the same amount of concentration. We can shake out the legs and the arms a little bit. We'll take a breath and inhale, hands high. Bring the hands in towards the heart and exhale down to the floor. I'll take the right foot to the back of the mat into a lunge and drop the back heel gently down onto the floor. Bring hands onto the front side to lift up. Allow ourselves to open up into our warrior two. We're going to adopt a reversed grip with the hands. So we're just going to draw them down towards the floor. Allow yourself to roll the shoulders back a couple of times. So squeeze the shoulder blades together and then see if you can get the heel of the hands to meet. And we'll release the hands back out. Straighten the front leg, and we're coming into triangle pose, so we're lengthening out. Now, hopefully those bricks aren't too far away. And you can just bring one of them onto the inside of the front leg. Drop the top arm around the spine, taking the fingers towards that front thigh. Lengthening the chest out from the pelvis. And we'll soften the front knee again. Take the brick forwards, just place it out of the way. Bring the hand to the floor. Take the top arm up towards the sky. Roll it out towards the front of the mat. And then we'll turn the chest down towards the floor. So both hands are on the inside. We'll walk the fingers around gently. So a nice wide position. Toes turning in. Heels out a bit. You're going to be up on the fingertips to start with. Draw the chest forwards. Now, it might sound strange, but there's kind of a gap between the very top of your pelvis, the top of the front hip, and the hip joints themselves. You want to try and stretch that distance out a little bit. Physically, we can't really move too far. You know, they are fixed points, but we're trying to lengthen the muscles out in those areas. And then once you've done that, you can then fold the pelvis over the sides and let the body hang down. And just keeping the hands gently on the floor. Draw the elbows in to about the same distance apart as your shoulders are wide. Take a little breath. Press into the floor to lift up, halfway. Walk the fingers around the long side of the mat. Take a little breath in the lunge. Step it forwards into the forward fold. Hands onto the hips, soft knees and a flat back to lift up. Inhale high. Take it into a little bit of a back bend again. Draw the hands in towards the heart. Exhale down to the floor. And this time we take the left foot back. Drop it in for warrior two. Hands come onto the thighs to lift up. Open out. Again, we're going to take the hands behind. So we interlace the fingers first. Then get a little bit of that shoulder shrug and wriggle around to draw the shoulder blades together. And then see if you can bring the palms together or the heel of the hands together and lengthen the arms out. Again, you're trying to keep the ribs down towards the hips. They might flare out a little bit. The hands do move away from the body. That's not too much of a problem. we release back into warrior two. Straighten the front leg. Lengthen out over that hip. Find the block. Bring it on the inside of the front foot. Wrap the top arm around. Find the thigh. Or maybe the waistband. So working on rolling the chest to the long side of the mat. We do that by drawing the rib cage that's on the bottom around slowly up towards the sky. Take the top hand up towards the ceiling. Take it forwards and then rotate the chest gently down to the floor. Bring both hands in, move your block out of the way. Walk the fingers around to the long side of the mat. Turn the heels out, toes in. Keep the body nice and long. Soften the knees just a fraction. Take one hand behind the pelvis. Second hand, interlace the fingers. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Heel and a hand together if you can. Hinge over the hips. Let the legs lengthen out a little more. Release the hands down to the floor. Come up halfway. Walk fingers around to the front of the mat. Into the lunge. Take a little breath. Allow ourselves to come into that forward fold. Soft knees and a flat back to lift up. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. Exhale down to the floor. I'm going to take a little breath here. Step the right foot back. Allow ourselves to check the front knee is over the ankle. Bring the hands onto the front thigh to lift up. Now we'll take the hands out to the side. Draw the hands in towards the heart. We're going to take that revolved twist. So we're going to take the right elbow out to the outside of the left thigh. Press the heels of the hands together. Try and lift the chest away from the floor. So the back heel in this version is heel to the sky. There's a different version where the heel is down on the floor and the foot is a bit more sort of warrior two-ish. But we're doing high crescents today. And take a last breath here. Bring the hands down to the floor. Stepping back into that forward fold. Hands onto the hips, so lift up. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. Exhale down and over. Left foot back. Check your front knee position. Bring the hands onto the front thigh, draw the belly and lift. All the way. Hands to the side and then float the arms out. Bring the hands into prayer. Lean forwards gently, rotate the body. Lengthen the spine and the back leg away. Hands to the floor. Take a little breath. Step it into the forward fold. Hands on the hips, soft knees and a flat back to lift up. Inhale high. Bring the hands into the heart. And step it out to the right. Take the feet nice and wide. Open it out into that star shape. Turn the toes to the front of the mat. Sink into our warrior two. Take a breath, straighten the front leg, lengthen out into triangle pose. This time we're going to bring the bottom hand down onto the shin, top hand up towards the sky as we rotate around. Take a little breath here, soften the front knee. Bring the hand down onto the inside of the front foot. Walk the fingers round. Heels out, toes in. Take a breath. Now this time we're going to hinge again. So we still want to get that length in the body, almost like you're sending the tailbone back. And as you come down, we're going to walk the fingers forwards, wider than the shoulders, to see if we can get a nice flat line, imaginary if it may be, between the fingertips, the shoulders, and the hips. Still trying to keep the weight even between the front and the back of the foot. Thighs lifting. Help draw the belly in. And then we'll walk the fingers back in. Now we're going to zigzag the toes back in gently. So we're in a forward fold. The hands under the hips, soften the knees flat back to lift up. Step up to the front of the mat, shake out the legs a little bit. Take the hands high again. Into the heart, and we're stepping out to the left side this time. Taking those hands out into that star shape, turning both feet to the front of the mat. Soften into our warrior two. And then lengthening out, straightening the front leg into our triangle. Soften the front knee. Take both hands down onto the inside of that front leg. Walk the fingers around to the long side of the mat. Turn the heels out again. Take a little breath. Now this time we're going to walk the hands under the body. Turn the palms so that the fingers are pointing behind us. Stretching to the opposite side of the mat. Still trying to lift the hips up. Straighten the legs as much as you can. Let the crown of the head sink. Shoulders broad so that it's a little easier for the blood to flow into the head. And then walk the hands through, back to the other side. Walk them around to the front end of the mat. Take a little breath. We're going to step back into plank this time and lower the knees to the floor and take a couple of rounds of cat-cow. So just draw the chest up. Exhale it out. Come back into tabletop position. Just going to move the bricks off to the side and then let the elbows come down to the ground. Just walk the feet back. I'm going to come right down onto our bellies for low cobra. So I bring the hands underneath the shoulders a little bit more and the elbows into the ribs. Bootlaces down to the floor, toes in, heels out a little bit. Lace off the length and the legs away. And then on the inhale, we're going to lift the chest away from the ground, a little squeeze of the shoulders, and then relax back down. Trying to keep the bottom ribs attached to the floor. Inhale up, little squeeze, and release. Inhale up, and down. 3 more. 2 more. And the last one. We'll take the hands out wide, come onto fingertips for the gecko, so elbows are high. Take a breath in, exhale, lengthen the leg away, draw the chest up and forwards. This time the bottom ribs do come off the ground. Exhale on the way down, inhale on the way up, and exhale down, inhale up, 2 more, last one. As you come down, you're going to bend the knees and bring the heels towards the bottom. You're going to take the hands back and find the toes, and then press the heels gently towards the sitting bones. Try and keep the thighs relatively hip distance apart. And with your chin on the ground, try and press the hip bones flat into the floor, the pelvis rather. You feel the top of your hip flexors lengthen out as you do this. You just squeeze the shoulder blades a little bit. Direct the elbows towards the sky. It's a little bit easier. Now I'm going to pretty much stay in position and just walk fingers down towards the ankle joint. Ready for bow pose. Now flex the feet, take a little breath, press the hips into the floor, and then slowly lift the thighs off the ground. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. And press the shins away and lift the chest. And then we're going to start to try and press the feet towards the sky. Remember to breathe easy into the belly. One more breath. And then release down. Release the legs. Bring the hands back underneath the chin and give the hips a little bit of a shake out. Now I'm going to roll gently onto my right side, just bringing my arms underneath, and then draw the knees in towards the body so I can lift away from the floor. I'm going to find that block again and just place that underneath the bottom. Lift up. Nice long body. We take the left foot underneath for a seated twist. We can take a little breath from here. And take the right foot over. Inhale, hand high. Tilt the pelvis forwards a little bit, draw the belly in, rotate round. Looking over the back shoulder. You can try and have an even amount of weight through each sitting bone. Got hiccups, that's not good. We'll release from there, take it over to the second side, open the legs out, and then draw them back in. And remember to just tilt the pelvis forwards a little, get the spine along. Inhale the right hand up and then take the rotation through to the left. And release. So I'm going to take a seated forward fold, but I'm going to do that with the heels in towards the groin. So I'm not crossing the ankles, I want the shins down on the floor. Fingertips lift up. And then allow those hip bones to roll over the ankles and the shins, taking the hands forwards, sinking gently down. And drawing the belly in a little bit. Now pressing the tailbone away. Pressing into the hands lightly. Wherever they are. Might be a lot closer into the body than mine, that's not a problem. And slowly walk the fingers back in. And then we're going to take it to the second side. So we stretch out the front leg, second leg, then front leg comes back in. Crossover, so it's going to feel weird. Take your time, you might find it a little bit more of a challenge in the knees and the ankles and the hips in this one. Fingertips to the floor, chest lifts. And then we fold over. And walking it out, and just really listening to how the body feels rather than trying to get to the same place. You want to just make sure that the body feels comfortable wherever it gets to. So quite often we have a bit of a difference in the hips from side to side. Wherever you are, you try and press the tailbone back a little bit, drawing the belly in, pressing the hands into the floor, slowing the breath. And then we'll lift slowly back out of that side. And we'll come into Shavasana. So untangling the legs. Use the block again. Knees are high, hands behind. Draw the belly in, roll the spine into the ground progressively. And then lengthen the legs out to the corner edges of the mat. If your spine feels like it's done a lot of work, if the muscles are feeling tired, you might want to keep the knees high, feet wide, and TP the legs in a little bit. Otherwise, wriggle out those hips, legs, thighs, let the toes roll out. And then finally take the hands to the side, palms face up. Just relax. Press down into the ground. Feel confident that you can let yourself go. The ground beneath will just support everything we need in this pose. Start to wriggle the fingers, toes. Breathe a little deeper. Get the wrists and the ankles, take some movements. With a deeper breath, take a stretch. And then finally let the legs draw in towards the body. A final little hug. And then we'll just drop gently over to the right side as we take a breath in. On the exhale, use the hands to press into the floor. So we roll gently out smoothly back into the seated posture. Allow ourselves to adjust, sit up nice and tall. Bring the hand into the heart as you take a breath in. And on the exhale, let that chin drop. The belly draws in. We bow gently to the floor, sealing our practice for the morning. On the inhale, the breath comes back in and builds the spine. Open the eyes. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me. See you soon.